Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to part 5 of What If Naruto Was the Wolverine and Deadpool, guys. Remember to get this one too. 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, guys, I posted a brand new episode of What If Naruto Had the most powerful weapon in the universe over on Anime King 2. So go ahead, check out that and enjoy. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time hearing my voice, yes, that's correct. I indeed have 3 channels which I post What If on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead, check them out, and yeah, enjoy. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification to see when I post, because I do post a hell of a lot. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode? Let's begin now, guys. So the last part we left off, Orochimaru informed Naruto that he was his father, as Naruto betrayed the mission that Minato Namikaze had assigned to him. Well, not before wiping out at least 90% of Orochimaru's men, which the others hate him for. However, they wouldn't dare make a move against the Sannin, and Naruto was with the Sannin, so they found themselves unable to do anything actually. Soon after, though, Naruto left. He had a real bad feeling and he just could not understand why. Maybe it was because he go against his word. He agreed to do a mission and he tended to never go against his word. That was one thing that he had, it was his honor when it came to a mission. But there was just something else that was bothering him. Surprisingly, though, Guren came to find him. Naruto was a bit surprised, not expecting her, as she informed him that she worked with his father, as he wondered if meeting her was not a coincidence, but she told him that it was. As the both of them got to talk, Naruto suggesting that they did what they do some time ago. However, she refused, not wanting to go back down that rabbit hole. However, given Naruto and his rather eccentric personality and his insistence, however, later that night, she was the one that actually suggests that they went to her room, and she didn't even drink that much. She just found it rather enjoyable. The next morning, she thought that he had left, just like what she had done, but he came back with breakfast. He told her that he liked her. Given his profession and the things that he did, he didn't have much people to hang out with, and she was cool. Besides, he had a mission, and she was forced to tag along after all. The Sannin told her to bring him back, so they made their way off. Their target was an individual, as Naruto was supposed to capture him. The problem was, the Akatsuki was also coming there as well to assassinate this person. Guren told Naruto that they could not face off against them. Orochimaru was once a part of the group. It only consists of S-rank ninjas, but Naruto did not care that much. As Guren went to capture the target, Naruto faced off against Sasori and Deidara. The leader had been looking for this one, as they heard about his eccentric abilities, but they never got the chance. However, now they did not need to do that. All they need to do now is to eliminate him to get him out of the way. But Naruto proved to be a lot better than the both of them thought, evading and slicing Deidara's arm off, which pissed him off as he nuked the entire place. A violent explosion reducing everything to dust. But Naruto survived. Sasori littered Naruto with needles, to the point that Naruto started to fall over himself, as the poison was not going to kill him, but it made him seem like he was drunk, falling over himself and collapsing over himself. But even in that state, he was able to evade and dodge all of their strikes. Guren was the one that carried him away though, after he fell in the forest from a long drop, as she brought him to a safe distance. With that said and done, she brought him back, as the both of them were on one of her crystal dragons. Returning back to Orochimaru hideout, the Sannin spoke with Naruto as he had something for him to do. His plan for destroying Konoha had been placed on hold for the time being, until he can be better prepared. The Sound Four was also at this meeting hall as well, as Naruto met them, but they weren't a big fan of him, so he went to bother Guren as he met her team. They weren't a big fan of him either, as Naruto did not care much for them or their personalities one bit. Skipping back to Konoha, as Kushina was lost in her thought, she was helping Mito and Sakura as well. However, she thought about her son. They had yet to tell Mito anything, believing that it was unwise to bring her hopes up just yet. After all, in the past they had believed that they found Naruto before, but it turned out to be, well, not him, so they didn't want to get their hopes up just like they've done to themselves already. So they were going to wait. Currently Jiraiya was on the road, making his way trying to find him, trying to find any semblance of him so that he could tell him the truth, because Orochimaru was lying to him. It was soon after that Naruto headed out that the Sannin came across him. Finally, after tracking his destination by using the area that Naruto got underhanded missions from, the Sannin had to do a lot, but he got it. Naruto expected a fight, however. Jiraiya told him that Orochimaru lied to him. His father and mother was at Konoha, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. In that moment, Naruto looked at the man, wondering what kind of trickery was this. However, Jiraiya had a lot of information to back up what he was saying. Naruto's hear everything about him. As Naruto wondered if that was a bad feeling that he had, Orochimaru stole him as a child, and that is why his life was like this now. Naruto threw a smoke bomb down and ran away. Jiraiya was unable to keep up with him, as Naruto was 10 times faster than before. Because there was something special about him. Naruto did not possess limiters like most humans did, because of his unique body. Bloodlusted and rage, Naruto ran straight back to the base to confront the Sannin on if this was true or not. And if it was, there will be hell to pay. So yeah guys, basically let's left off. You guys can switch across the play straight off yourselves to be in this new episode. We begin this episode with Orochimaru, as he was having a meeting with some of his top people. The Sound Four was there, Guren was there, her team was also there as well. Her team was not amongst the top people, however. They were stronger than majority of the runts, but the only reason why they were invited to this was because Guren was their leader. As long as they kept their mouths shut and did not say anything. Yukimaru was also there as well. Orochimaru was regrouping, gathering more forces. After all, he will need it to take down Konoha. However, everyone turned their gaze. They felt it before it happened. The massive steel door was kicked off the hinges, completely blown off. Drobo had to jump forward and stop one of them from reaching his team, while the musclehead on Guren's team had to jump in as well, stopping the other one. Stepping inside of the room was Deadpool, fully decked out in his uniform, all weapons secure on him. Orochimaru turned to face him. "What is the meaning of this?" he said. "I thought you were heading out on a mission," he said to him, not liking the interruption, as he had a bad feeling something was wrong. Guren narrowed her eyes, having come to know Naruto rather well. There was a big problem here. He wasn't joking. Frankly, he wasn't talking. And that was the greatest tragedy that you could face when going up against him. He was quiet. "Orochimaru," he said. There was no joking in his tone. His tone was not humorful or light, as it usually was, and everyone noticed that. Yukimaru started to portray a bone from his palm, ready just in case to protect his master. Was all of it a lie, Naruto said, telling me that you created me for a purpose, that you brought me into this world, giving me life, making me what I am today, and now I've returned as your son. However, I recently was told that you stole me as a child. From the hidden leaf, my parents, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, the goddamn Hokage. Orochimaru kept himself as calm as he possibly could, however, his finger twitched slightly. Naruto, his eyes trained on the man, saw that. Who is filling your head with this nonsense? Orochimaru said, I recently came across Jiraiya of the Sannin. He was the one that told me. Are you saying that he's lying? Of course he is. Can't you see? You betrayed them. You came to work for me instead of going through with your mission. So they want you dead, or after the big reveal, they want to use you to find me. You know, I was thinking the same thing, however, I remember seeing their faces. The moment my mask came off, that shocked look on his face. And also, when I saw her and I knocked her away by saving you, she didn't try to fight back. She was just surprised. All this goddamn time, the blonde hair, the red streaks, a perfect combination of the two, the blue eyes. They lost their son all those years ago. So, I'm truly wondering which of you are the liars. Naruto, Orochimaru said, stepping forward. This is just a big misunderstanding that I'm sure you will be kicking yourself for later, but can't you see what they're trying to do? Implant these false knowledge into your head to use you against me. You know, you experimenting on me gave me a lot of gifts. However, one of my most prominent gifts that has helped me a lot is to see through deception. I can hear your heartbeat. I can feel the fluctuation from here, said Naruto. Naruto's senses were incredibly enhanced, allowed him to detect a lie from another. Jiraiya was calm when he was speaking. Orochimaru was also calm, however. Every now and again Naruto felt his heartbeat increase or decrease. It was a sign of someone trying their best to keep the person from finding out. All this time, everything would have been so different, said Naruto, looking down towards his hands. He was quiet, unmoving. The Sannin was cursing in his mind. Naruto draw his blades and leap. Immediately, Yukimaru jumped up in the air as bones met blades. However, Yukimaru's bones were sliced right through. But he wasn't done as he shot a bone from his shoulder. Naruto allowed it to jam through his side before he turned without any discomfort as he crushed his heel in Yukimaru's skull. Naruto wasn't done as he dropped down and slammed his heel across his face, throwing him into the wall. Immediately the Sound 4 went for the attack. Drobo raised his massive fist and came down. However, Naruto flipped in the air as he landed on both feet, as Tayuya started to play her flute. Naruto's gaze met with a Sannin as he looked at him. You robbed me of so much. I'm going to take every single thing away from you, starting with everyone here, said Naruto. Guren stepped forward. Naruto, stop this. Naruto's gaze turned towards her. You knew of this, he said to her, as he saw the change in expression on her face. No, she said. But you don't have to do this. If you fight us all here, you will lose. You cannot win, she said to him. Enough, Orochimaru said, realizing that the situation has gone from bad to worse, and Naruto wasn't going to stop. Subdue him, now! Guren hesitated. I said now, the Sannin shouted at her, and everyone else. Several bones were launched towards Naruto from Yukimaru's fingertips. Naruto split one of them as he dodged the others. He jumped in the air as several arrows were shot towards him. Smoke bombs were then thrown as all the members jumped away from Guren's side. However, zoop, Naruto flew through the smoke and bisected the guy in half. He spun on his heel and crushed his feet inside of the slipper one's face. However, given his body special properties, he wrapped himself around Naruto. Naruto overpowered him with bare strength as he ripped himself out. Renji started to charge up an attack. However, it took 2 seconds as his head flew off his shoulder. Gozu came running down as he stretched his arm. Naruto split his arm into 5 pieces before snapping his neck with one kick. However, he wasn't done yet as Naruto flipped around him, grabbing onto his shoulders. That is when a massive crystal dragon came raging towards him. Naruto kicked Gozu right in it as it tore into him. Jumping up in the air, the final member tried to jump away. However, Naruto threw his mini knife right into his skull. The Sound 4, including Yukimaru, realized that the threat was greater than they perceived. Immediately, all of them kicked it up a notch, activating the first form of their curse mode. Guren flashing through hand sign as she slammed her hand down, creating a massive crystal structure that trapped all of them on the inside. They couldn't allow him to escape. Orochimaru cursed once again. Naruto was wasting down his people that he intended to use. "Restrain him," the Sannin shouted, refusing to believe that he could overtake the entire Sound 4 and Yukimaru together. That was impossible. Orochimaru couldn't allow Naruto to escape. He figured that he would go the different route this time by tricking him, making him believe that he was safe, that he was a part of something different. Orochimaru knew that he needed Naruto for the sole reason that he was the only one that survived. There were 2 experiments done on Naruto. The first one, which granted him his amazing regeneration ability and augmented his senses and skills. The second one, which granted him the adamantine claws that also increased his regeneration ability. So those 2 combined together gave him limitless healing mixed with his natural Uzumaki regeneration bloodline. It was truly remarkable. The Sannin wasn't even sure if he could be killed, and that was what he's been desiring for years now. However, instead of forcefully taking what he desired, he decided to make the child trust him, but now all of that was thrown through the window. Because he's seen the boy motivation with his mind made up, he would never change it. So instead of wasting any more time, he was just going to strap him on a table and get what he wanted. The problem was, as they battled together, the Sound 4 was hitting Naruto with everything they had, tearing through him from bones to arrow. But Naruto was brushing them off like it was nothing. And there was another problem as well. Naruto's regeneration ability was so high that it made him limitless. Yes, the normal human body had limitations, so the body does not hurt itself. However, throughout the years, Naruto had learned to understand that pain, and it no longer bothered him. It wasn't even there anymore. He actually broke the side of himself which had a limit. Think of him as broken his human limiter. While the normal human can get hit and have to slow down, when he get hit, he simply increased the force that he's using. He removed limits from his hands by augmenting his body with chakra. Therefore, his punches would be at least quadruple the amount of force when he released them at an extreme amount. Naruto has always been holding back, never having to exert so much force before, having no real understanding how much force he could use. Things became rather frightening when he punched Jirobo's head clean off. He knocked his head off his shoulders, shocking the other members as everyone paused in that moment. Guren, who had her hand down on the ground, was conflicted in what they were doing. As she saw Naruto punch Jobo's head off, a part of her was glad. Another part of her hated what she was thinking. Orochimaru started to prepare himself as he regurgitated the Kusanagi blade. He looked towards Guren as he shouted at her to drop the dome immediately. He couldn't afford for all of his top people at the moment to be wiped out in front of him. It seems like he will have to handle this himself. Guren looked towards him with worry in her eyes. He shouted at her once again, releasing bloodlust to confirm his words. She did as she was told. With that said and done, move, the Sannin said as all of them moved a distance away. Without hesitation, Naruto stood there, his gaze turned toward the Sannin, once again, at his most deadliest as he was quiet. Orochimaru flashed away and so did Naruto. Their blades clashed as they tore walls. They destroyed the compound, tearing through walls, breaking through solid stone. The place was being ripped apart as the two of them went at it, their blade cleaving through everything including each other as well. Orochimaru tried to parry Naruto's attack, however. His blade started to glow as Naruto cut through the Kusanagi and bisected the Sannin. Naruto's hands moved like a blur as he reduced the Sannin lower half to ribbons. However, he jumped out of his own mouth while spitting a massive fireball to Naruto. Naruto cleaved the fireball in half, showing how special his blades were. He jumped and swung as Orochimaru elongated his neck and wrapped it around Naruto and slammed him into the ground. The both of them jumping up to the surface as they went at it once again. An enormous amount of chakra started to swell the air as their bloodlust fear and spread. The remaining members quickly jumped to the surface along with all the sound ninjas. Yukimaru shouting to them to be prepared to fight. Hearing who their opponent would be, most of them were actually glad. After Naruto wiped out 80% of them, they wanted to take him down. As the battle just started to increase, more and more and more and more, Orochimaru found himself having to switch bodies once again, as he had to regurgitate himself as Naruto was cleaving through him. The Sannin sliced both Naruto's arms off and sliced through his left leg. However, his regeneration returned at such an immense force. His hand regrew as Naruto punched it directly through the Sannin's chest, showing the amount of force that he possessed. His adamantine claws ripping through the Sannin like butter, and they were a hot knife. Once again, Orochimaru was forced to jump out of his own mouth. The Sannin had started to panic. This was 3 times now, and that was his limit. You said it yourself. You wanted to create a monster. You wanted to create a perfect weapon. However, I bet you never thought that this weapon will turn against you. You can refresh yourself again and again and again. However, I'm sure that you have some sort of limit, and I will not stop until I find that limit, because unlike you, I don't have one, said Naruto. His face was exposed and so was his arms, and his right leg as well. As Naruto stood there, his chakra coursing through every ounce of his form, the ground underneath him started to tremble slightly as he bent his knees and took off. The clash between the two caused a massive backlash to the others. Every weaker ninja was thrown back as a massive force was exerted between the two. Orochimaru grit his teeth. Having used chakra to rebuild the Kusanagi blade, Naruto punched clean through it with his other hand. His adamantine claws coming out, he slammed them in the Sannin's side and lifted him in the air. Having dropped both of his blades, Naruto then pulled them to the side, ripping through him as he grabbed Orochimaru. He swung and threw him, launching him across the entire field. The Sannin slammed right through solid stone. Naruto was poisoned from head to toe, Orochimaru's blade being coated in it. However, he was still moving, unbothered. His mind focused on one thing, and one thing only, as he ran with all the force and might that he had, dashing through the field at blinding speeds. Naruto leaped into the sky as he came down and split the entire ground open as he sliced right through Orochimaru. However, he immediately noticed that the body was empty. The ground burst open as a real Orochimaru emerged, his body made up of hundreds of white snakes. He was about to devour him. However, Naruto pushed himself off, sacrificing his right arm and right leg as he landed. They started to regenerate. "What is this?" "Another transformation," Naruto said. As he prepared himself, Orochimaru snarled, "To think that you would push me this far. After all I've done for you, after everything I've given to you, you think if it was a choice between choosing between this and having an actual life with people that care about me, do you really think I would have chosen this? You sick psychotic freak. You forced this on me. I never had a chance. I never had an option. But it doesn't matter anymore, because you won't live past this day." The Sannin snarled. "Just because I've granted you these amazing gifts doesn't mean I can't take them back. I am Orochimaru of the Sannin and I refuse to fall to my own creation," he said. He lashed out at Naruto as Naruto jumped and sliced several of his snakes off. Their battle increased as Naruto evaded and dodged, most of the time being hit or torn in the process. However, Naruto was not truly suffering any real damage as he extended his claws and started to rip into the Sannin. Naruto jumped on him like a wild animal as he even bit down and tear some of the snakes out with his teeth. Naruto started to climb the Sannin as he jumped forward. However, Orochimaru's tail ripped into his stomach and drive him into the ground, the snakes biting down on every part of him as they held him down. Naruto started to forcefully push himself up. Despite the tearing of limbs, despite the rupturing of his body, he pulled himself up, tearing the snakes off him. However, he then swayed on his feet. Orochimaru started to chuckle. "And now, it's over," he said. The Sannin blood had a rather great side effect. It started to push Naruto's mind inwards. And there was a lot of it, and Naruto has been breathing it in the entire time. As Naruto was submerged in it, he stepped forward and staggered. The next moment, Naruto found himself in a strange location. Everything around him seemed to be flesh. That is when he saw people wrapped up in these flesh cocoons. "What is this? Where am I?" he said. "You are now in my world," Orochimaru said. "You forced my hand. While I wanted to wait until I have fully learned the secrets of your body, I have no choice." He was intending on becoming one with Naruto and overtaking his form. He would have liked to know everything before he did this. However, the child was just too powerful. He had no limits. He could not be slowed down or stopped. The more they fought, the more he seemed to be getting stronger and faster. While Orochimaru's chakra was lessening, while using techniques or constantly empowering his blade so it would not shatter, or remaking his blade after it shattered. To believe that he created something like this. The boy had the power to go head to head with the entire Akatsuki. And that was exactly what the Sannin wanted, but unfortunately, he had to take drastic measures. Orochimaru stepped forward when suddenly he dropped to his knees. Looking down, there was a gaping wound in his chest. The Sannin was confused. What is this? I've come across many genjutsu users in the past that try to push my consciousness back, so I've learned how to get around that easily. While your technique is different, it's relatively the same. You're trying to control me from the inside, so all I have to do is to shut down my brain," Naruto said. And once I do that, my body has free reins to use all my skills to slaughter whatever is in front of me. And right now you're the only target in sight. The Sannin screamed as he gripped his chest. His physical form was still outside. The merger was nowhere close to be completed. So, any damage inflicted on him on the outside was being inflicted on the inside as well. Orochimaru returned back to his form as Naruto buried his swords into his skull. His mutated, oversized skull. Naruto did not stop. He retracted his claws as he started to slash, hack and tore and rip and hack and tore. The Sannin screamed out in pain as Naruto reduced him to flesh pieces on the ground. He did not stop until there was nothing left. He beat, he ripped. Even when there was nothing, Naruto's fist kept on slamming into the ground. As he shattered the bones, he slammed his fists over and over until there was nothing but blood and smudge on the ground. By the time the remaining forces, including Yukimaru and the Sound Ninja, arrived, Guren by their side, they saw the remains of Orochimaru, every single snake dead on the ground. Orochimaru brain matter and blood everywhere. Naruto got to his feet coated in the substance. As he started to walk towards them, Guren stepped forward, her crystal blade on her hand. However, Naruto did not even budge. He just looked at her as he kept on walking and walking. As Guren found her hand shaking, she cursed at herself. She had to fight. She had to kill him for what he did. However, when Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her with nothing but raw speed, she didn't even try to attack him. Naruto slammed his fist in her gut with a great amount of force. Her eyes rolled back as she collapsed on the ground. His fist was strong enough to shatter her crystal armor. He punched right through it and hit her right in the stomach. Her body seized up from the pain as she collapsed out like a light. A bloodlusted gaze turned towards the rest of the Sound members as some of the Sound ninjas behind them stepped back. As Naruto retracted his claws and all hell broke loose. Time skip. Finally, arriving towards the location, he had to search a vast area. However, he saw blood upon arriving. Someone had recently left the area, traveling through the underground passageway. Orochimaru hideout. Jiraiya arrived to see a massacre. Bodies were everywhere. The entire structure on the inside was destroyed, wiped out. The Sannin surveyed the area and checked all over the place. Everyone here was dead. As he was looking down at what was the remains of hundreds of white snakes, he found the dried up husk of Orochimaru. Given the location, it seems like this was the Sannin. What he has done to himself was truly inhumane. But not only that, he was dead. After all these years, seeing the footsteps that headed the way that he came in, he had no doubt in his mind that Naruto had done all of this. However, he was not alone. There was someone lying here. The movement of the grass. Naruto had carried them off, as the weight of his footsteps seemed to get heavier. The Sannin was able to see everything on a tracking level. He checked the rest of the base as he confirmed that every single one inside was dead. There was not a survivor, not even one. As he decided to follow the bloody footsteps, it wasn't until later that Kabuto Yakushi arrived to find nothing remain. Everyone dead. But the most tragic thing that he came across was the remains of his master, reduced to nothing. He was gone. Kabuto, of all things that he expected, this was not one of them. Never one of them to come back to see. and he had no idea what the hell happened here. And there was no one around to inform him or even tell him what the hell happened. Time skip. Guren's eyes opened up as she looked around confused, not understanding what was going on or where she was. She thought that she would never wake up again. She thought he was going to kill her, as she couldn't believe that she was unable to claim his life. How many has she killed in the past because Orochimaru's orders was to do so, and yet, when the time mattered the most for her to stand for her master and kill because of his death, she did not. Was these emotional attachments for Naruto stronger than everything else? She got up as she slowly made her way, surveying the area. She heard something. She was in a two-story house, it seems. Upon making her way downstairs, there was a TV that was on. Someone sitting on the couch. She immediately started to create a crystal blade as she saw the light, brown and green here. It was like a color combined between the two. Wait, she knew that Yukimaru? The young boy, possessing purple eyes, jumped off the couch and ran towards her. Guren, you're awake, he said, as he hugged her. Yes, she said, confused. She grabbed him by the shoulders. Yukimaru, how are you here? Naruto brought me here, he said, having a smile on his face. He saved me. He did? There were some rumors that Orochimaru was killed, and the one that did it was coming. So everything started to go chaotic, and I got caught up in it. If he hadn't arrived on time, I would have died. He told me that he was bringing me to you, that he wouldn't let anything happen to me, and he kept me safe. He told me to close my eyes, and then, after a few minutes, we were out of there. He told me that you were going to wake up soon, and that you were alright. And he didn't lie one bit, Yukimaru said with a big smile on his face. Guren was shocked, confused as well. Where is he now? He's out there. She caressed Yukimaru's cheek. Why don't you go back and watch your show, she said. I'll be right back, she said. He nodded his head, completely unaware of anything, just knowing that he was safe and Guren was safe as well. After all, he didn't really like Orochimaru. He hated the experiments and the things they did to him. But Guren was always there to make sure that he was happy. Guren cautiously made her way outside, as Naruto did not turn. He was simply seated, gazing out. It seems like they were on some sort of cliff, given the long distance down below. She had no idea where they were. I thought I would never wake up again. You didn't lie to me, said Naruto, speaking as his gaze was still fixated outwards. I could tell, remember. She stepped towards him. I don't understand. How do you know about Yukimaru? You don't remember, do you? When the first time we met, you told me why you were so stressed out. You told me the affection and love that you have for that boy, and that all you want to do is to keep him safe. However, watching him going through those experiments, it's hurting you, physically and mentally as well. But you can't go against your leader, which I had no idea who was at the time. I also overheard you talking to Renji when all of you were at the base, and he told you that he checked up on Yukimaru on the base that was nearby. So I decided to bring him as well. A few sound ninjas ran away when they saw that their odds were less than 5% of survival. I'm sure that they were going to spread the news. It was only a matter of time before chaos erupted, and he would probably die, said Naruto. I did that for you. Because you never lied to me, said Naruto. You're now free. No longer bound by the Sanin. No longer bound by your mission. You can take him and go. Guren was quiet for a long time. However, she came around and sat on the bench that Naruto was sitting on. What about you, she asked, looking out as well. Are you going to return to the Hidden Leaf? Naruto chuckled slightly, but there was no humor in his tone. How could I, he said. She looked towards him a bit confused. Finding out that my parents are Minato and Kushina. I have a little sister, that girl, pure of heart, kind and sweet. However, what am I? Look at the reputation I've made for myself. A bloodthirsty, ravaging killer that is known to do whatever it takes to get the job complete. Is known to do every single thing. It doesn't matter who he has to kill or what he has to do. I don't think that this is the kind of person that they wanted their son to be. It's better off if we don't ever meet again, said Naruto. After all, who would want a monster as a child? You're not a monster. Of course I am, he said. No, you're not. That word has really changed over time. Ninjas kill. They kill for the right thing. They kill for the bad things sometimes as well. But ninjas kill. That is the profession of majority of the people that roams the elemental nation. A lot of people had to kill to even survive. When I was younger, I lost my parents to a ninja that just wanted to steal from us. He killed them right in front of me. I had to watch. It was at that moment I awakened my bloodline. And I reduced him to pieces. So many crystals puncturing through him. But it didn't change anything. I still didn't have my parents. I was alone after that. I knew no other family. I was on the street. I was a young girl that had nothing. Time after time again, people tried to take advantage of me, so I had to fight. And there were several times that they were nearly successful, but I always managed to come out on top. However, the only way to do so was to kill. So I did it, because it was the only way to survive. You knew nothing. You didn't know who you were. You didn't know what you were. So you made something of yourself. After all, why would they be coming after you? Why would they be trying to find you if they didn't care about you? Why would they even send someone as Jiraiya of the Sanin to come after you if they didn't want you back to be a part of their family? Besides, you've done Konoha a great favor by eliminating one of their greatest threats. She said, looking down. I've spent so much of my life being subservient to Orochimaru, even after what he made me do. Did I? Yes. You told me what you did, said Naruto. You never told him. I can't. How could I tell him something like that? He's going to hate me. And what happened when he does hate me? Naruto gazed back towards the house. I don't think he will, he said. He loves you too much. And he's a smart and rather advanced child. He will understand what you had to do, that the option was taken away from you. I've always known that I was a monster, but I have one rule for myself, and that is I don't harm kids. Children who are new to the world don't deserve to die. Many believe that my code is anything but. The rumors has gotten rather ridiculous, because I've never struck down a kid before, said Naruto. And I don't believe in such a thing like that. Yukimaru might be angry or upset. However, after everything you two have been through, it will take him a while, but I'm sure there will be a point that he does come around and things get back to normal. I'm not saying that they would right away, but I'm sure they will. She started to stutter. I'm afraid. She said to him, fear plays a big part in this world. After all, I'm afraid to even see my own parents. Naruto said, getting to his feet. Wait, she said, taking his hand. I don't want you to go. He turned and looked towards her as she looked away. We don't have to separate. You don't want to return just as yet. You don't have to leave. We don't have to separate yet, she said. Given what I've done to the person that you look up to so much, I thought you would hate me despite sparing your life, said Naruto. Perhaps I was just being naive throughout the whole thing. I've grown close to Yukimaru. I prefer that he survive, other than the Sannin experimenting on him. And with you, despite my orders, I was unable to even fight you on the battlefield. Maybe a change is for the better, she said to him. As Naruto simply looked at her. Time skip. Jiraiya returned back to the village after having no luck on where Naruto went. However, he returned back with some good news. After all these years, Orochimaru was no longer drawing breath. Minato was happy to hear that. Yes, he was happy to hear that. However, Minato was a very smart individual, and he had a feeling like he knew what Naruto was going through at the moment. After everything, he probably believed that, given his reputation and the things that he's done, they didn't want him, or perhaps he could not face them. However, Minato did not see it that way one bit, neither did Kushina. And if Mito knew, she wouldn't either. If he could just explain, the problem was he had no way of reaching Naruto. However, there was still time to find him. Time to sort all of this out. But Minato was just glad that he was no longer with Orochimaru. That was a good turning point, he told himself. Happy about that fact. Time skip. It didn't take long for news to spread around the Elemental Nation that, after all these years, Orochimaru of the Sannin has finally been slayed. Yes, he's finally been taken down after all these years. And the one that did it was none other than Deadpool. Many people are surprised to hear about that, having no idea how those two came around to even knowing one another. However, many was glad that the Sannin was finally out of the picture. Many was glad that they wouldn't have to see him again. However, tragedy struck. It wasn't too long ago. Yukimaru was currently situated in front of a volley of flowers. There were all kinds of wonderful, beautiful flowers laid out in front of him. The young boy was simply enjoying everything around him. It seems like this world, as corrupted as it was, hasn't been able to corrupt his spirit one bit. Suddenly he noticed there was something on the white tulip in front of him. Confused as he saw the red droplet, he reached out and touched it. He then realized that another dropped into his palm. Soon he realized where they were coming from. It was his nose. He stirred before he collapsed face first down on the flowers. It was moments later that Guren came out, looking for him, as she saw him lying on the grass. But then she saw his lack of movement. She ran towards him and flipped him over, her eyes widened in shock and fear. By the grace of Kami, he did not die. However, something was wrong with him. Time and time again, Yukimaru was experimented on. Orochimaru used him because of his special chakra qualities. The pills that they gave him always had rather nasty side effects like migraines. And the fact that he suddenly stopped taking them, there was a strange withdrawal. However, this was no average withdrawal. It was causing him a lot of internal problems. And with Orochimaru no longer amongst the living, they were unable to get access to this pill. However, Guren knew one person that would be able to save him. So with that, both her and Naruto and Yukimaru, who was unconscious, who was being carried by Naruto, headed out. Throughout their journey, his fever seemed to be getting worse. Guren was panicking, afraid that she might lose him. She wanted to tell him everything for him to know. And the regret of not having him here, of knowing that he died without knowing who she truly was something she couldn't handle. Knowing just how much she cared and how much she loved the boy, Naruto had no opposition against what they were doing or where they were going. As they made their way, it was another of Orochimaru's hideouts. This one was a bit further, an island situated across the coast. Currently, there was a young girl, 15 of age. However, she was already incredibly smart. Her name was Karen. Many did not know her last name. There was many important scientists on the island. There were also guards as well. A lot of Orochimaru prisoners that he used for experiments were here. Rumors were breaking out about what was going on. Karen was a smart girl. She had been planning. Several of the guards were the prisoners, and those who knew about the rumors, she had them struck down. Because, knowing that the threat that was above them, which was Orochimaru, was now gone, they would revolt. And this place would be turned into chaotic rather quickly. While the guards had weapons, they were unable to compare with the amount of prisoners that rely here. Karen paused what she was doing as she felt the chakra signatures arriving. Two of them was really familiar, however, the last one was not. One that she ever came across before. As she was confused about it, strangely enough, it had some of Orochimaru's chakra. Who the hell was this? She wondered to herself. As the group finally arrived on the island, making their way towards the head location, two guards situated there, weapons were drawn, halt. As they saw Guren-sama, they said, greeting her with respect. However, the moment their eyes landed on Deadpool, as they heard rumors, their weapons pointed towards him. We don't have time for this, Guren said. Naruto did not hesitate. In the blink of an eye, both guards were down on the ground, no longer amongst the living. Let's go, he said. As they made their way inside, Karen came walking out, along with three guards by her side. It's him, one of them said, noticing Naruto standing there. Karen, Guren said, what's going on? Why are you with him, Guren? Karen asked, looking towards her. That doesn't matter right now. I need your help. It's Yukimaru. Karen narrowed her eyes on the young boy, knowing the affliction that he suffered. She knew what Orochimaru was planning to do. After all, in that area, her knowledge was great. However, this one was the one that is said to have killed Orochimaru. We've already wasted enough time coming here, said Naruto. Try not to waste any more. Help the boy. And you three. It wouldn't be a good idea to attack me right now. I've not been in my right mind lately. I tend to do horrendous things when I'm not in my right mind. Naruto said, walking towards them, causing them to back away. Karen made her way towards Guren. I don't know what is going on, but for the sake of all you've been and done for Orochimaru-sama, I will help you, she said, narrowing her gaze towards Deadpool. As the boy was carried inside, it did not take too long for Yukimaru to be placed on a table, and he was hooked up to several machines. It was just as Karen thought. He was taken off the treatment that was allowing his chakra to build to extraordinary levels. Yukimaru was a special boy. He had a very soothing, powerful chakra. Orochimaru believed that with the chakra that he possessed, he could calm tail beasts. Yes, maybe even control them to an extent. However, his chakra needs to be a lot larger. And also more soothing as well. Orochimaru wanted to mix it with a bit of tail beast chakra so the beasts would see it as a unified nation and not something to go up against. And that was where the affliction lay. The pills were helping him stay calm, but now, simply taking him off the treatments had a rather bad side effect that was affecting him. Naruto, on the other hand, decided to roam the base. The 3 guards tried to prevent him from doing so, but the mere fact that they worked for the Sannin, Naruto did not hesitate on putting them down, not staying to his words, telling Guren or Karen that there would be no problem from him. Walking down the hallway, they saw the prisoners. They backed away from the cell as they saw him. As Naruto looked at them, caged and confined, he took his blade out. Immediately, they started to panic until he cut through the bars. They looked towards him confused. Some of them not even daring to move, believing that he was gonna cut them down if they tried. Orochimaru is dead. I killed him. There's nothing more to fear. You're free to go, said Naruto. As he walked off, the first brave one to step out realized that they were actually free, and the others immediately start to run out. The alarm started to blare as the bars had been severed. Karen came running down the hall as she saw Naruto. What have you done? She shouted at him. I simply freed the prisoners, said Naruto, looking towards her. You had no right. That wasn't your call. Immediately his blade was placed in her face. I would be very careful on the next words that you choose, because I have this little goal of mine, to eradicate every sign of the Sannin that he has ever placed on this world. And right now, you're very close to being one of those signs. After all, you're a true believer in what he has done. Aren't you? Naruto said, stepping forward, causing her to panic as the blade rested right at the tip of her nose. One more movement from him and she would start bleeding. She did not dare move either, as she wasn't able to speak now. It wasn't noticeable at first, however, her sensory ability was picking up on something great, as she felt like she was standing in front of a monster. Raw, oozing darkness coming from him, much more potent than any other killing intent. And it was not even focused directly on her. It was just the feeling that came from him. If you kill me, there would be no one to save Yukimaru, she said to him, trying to buy freedom for her life. That's right, said Naruto, as he pulled his blade away. Seems like you will be spared because of that. However, if he dies, you're going to die as well. Keep that in mind, Naruto said. Karen quickly made her way off as Naruto started to walk, as he watched the prisoners searching for their way to leave the island. He's not been himself. He really hasn't. He hasn't even cracked a joke. There was a lot on his mind to joke about right now. He hated feeling like this. Hated knowing that he actually had family out there. It was all good when he thought they were all dead. He had nothing to weigh on his conscience, nothing to feel remorseful for. But now, things are becoming rather bothersome. People, things that he did not want to care about. Guren, Yukimaru, he's becoming soft. Emotions were getting in his way. He has family, this and that and this. He was never built for this. He spent his entire life avoiding this. That was the entire reason why he wore the goddamn mask. To make sure no one knew where he was or who he was. to make sure no one could get through the wall that he built, and yet he's letting it crumble. And that is something he wouldn't let happen because it was a weakness, and he refused to let it get through. So he pulled his blade out as he turned his gaze towards the wall. Time skip. He's gonna be just fine. Karen informed Guren, who breathed a sigh of relief as she looked towards the sleeping boy on the bed. What about the withdrawal? It's gonna take a while for him to return fully back to normal, but it will happen as long as he don't go back on those pills. His chakra system will return back to normal. Guren smiled hearing that. Karen never knew Guren for one that showed this much emotions. She was different. Where's Naruto, she asks. He's gone. What? He's gone. Guren didn't understand what she was talking about. What do you mean he's gone? I felt his chakra leaving some time ago. No, that he wouldn't go away. Guren said, making her way as she arrived to see a message carved into the wall. All it said was, I'm sorry. As she stood there, understanding the implication of what this meant, her eyes started to moist. Time skip. 2 weeks later, singing could be heard as several ninjas were situated in a room. All of them, weapons out ready, hands ready to go through hand sign. As the singing got louder and louder and louder and louder, the door was then ripped apart, a blade cleaving through it, as a person stepped inside, decked out fully in his uniform. It was none other than Deadpool. He looked around. My oh my, he said, counting all the members in here. It seems I'm getting a rather rough welcome. I must admit, it is my first time. So be gentle, he said to them, as one of them gripped onto their blade. Oh, I guess that's a no, he said. Well then, I hope you're all strapped up, because we're about to begin. Both blades in his hand as he twirled them and rushed in, doing what he did best, reverting to the man that he once was, cutting off all those pesky emotions that has been bothering him, as things has returned to being fun. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see next part, and do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notifications they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out all the other what ifs on the other channels. Yes, that's right, I indeed have 3 more channels. All the links will be down in the description, so go ahead, check them out and enjoy. So without further ado, or wasting any more time, I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.